Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Mandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So we are there in the 18th chapter, sloka number 54. Very important sloka it is. Brahmabhuta prasannatma nasoshati nakangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Okay. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahmabhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahmabhuta. Oneness with the Brahmabhuta means oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto Him. In absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. So here we see that the Brahmabhuta stage means to be situated on the spiritual position. And Prabhupada nicely mentions, until unless we situate ourselves on spiritual position, there is no question of we serving the Supreme Lord. So if we have to serve the Supreme Lord, then we have to be on His plane. And it is something similar to His plane. So otherwise, it is not possible for us to serve the Supreme Lord. So in that way, like here we see that Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. So this is also a very nice shloka to meditate upon. So a person who is situated on Brahma Bhuta. So Prabhupada many places he mentions Jiva Bhuta means the conditioned living entities, who are conditioned by three modes of nature. Brahma Bhuta means those people who are liberated from three modes of nature. So what is their characteristics? They are Prasanna. They are always very, very satisfied. And what is the definition of that satisfaction? Na soshati na kangshati. So there is no lamentation or there is no hankering, right? And what happens? Mad bhaktim labate param. So if they are devotees of the Lord, then no, in that state, like he attains the pure devotional service unto me. No, Krishna is mentioning. So if we want to here Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that in the Mayavadis, no, for them the liberation or the Brahmabhuta stage is the ultimate. So but here Krishna very nicely mentions this Brahmabhuta stage that is beyond the modes of nature is just the starting point for pure devotional service. That is where the pure devotional service starts. So it's beyond the material nature. That is there. So, and here Prabhupada also mentions in the absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. So that means there is no difference between the Lord and his devotees in the spiritual world. So because they both are in the spiritual plane, so in that way there is no difference. But there is also a distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. It's in only in the composition. If we see, both of them are equally like liberated, and both the devotee, pure devotee who is serving the Lord in the spiritual world, and the Lord himself, both of them are liberated from the modes of material nature. In that way both are the same. And but still there is a difference, between the Lord and the devotees. So that is in a higher spiritual sense. Okay, in the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. So here, this is a very nice point. Prabhupada often mentions that in the deceased condition, any activity we do, like we lift our hand, there is pain. We lift our leg, there is pain. Especially when we have fever, we can experience that. So in disease condition, whatever action we do, it is miserable. And when we are healthy, the actions, we may play, we may dance, and the actions may give happiness to us. So in the same way, in the material world, all activities are done for sense gratification, and that is diseased condition, and it will cause misery. And in the absolute world or the spiritual world, so all activities are done in pure devotional service, so there is no misery. So that is why it is called, the place itself is called Vaikunta. Kunta means misery. Vaikunta means a place where there is no misery. So the devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. No soshati, no kankshati. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain, but he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher and someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. Hmm. So they are like conditional. Higher and lower is based on some condition. It's like somebody in this birth he has got some punya. He's in a very good condition, higher position, and if punya is over, then he will come back to lower position. So these are all. A devotee doesn't give much of um, like care for these things, right? So for him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahma Bhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. So the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poisonous teeth are broken. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or spiritual sky. So this is like whole thing is a translation of a very nice sloka. Here from this, in the last line of this previous page, in that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. So kaivalyam narakayate, right? And then the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. So that is this Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate. So phantasmagoria means like Akasha Pushpa. So Pushpa we can find in the tree and plant. In the sky there is no Pushpa. So that is called phantasmagoria. That means some kind of an illusion. So Tridashapur means heavenly kingdom. So the heavenly kingdoms is like Akash Pushp. Like it's going there and enjoying. There's no guarantee that we will go there and enjoy, right? So Kaivalyam Narakayate, Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate, Durdanta Indriya Kala Sarpa Patale. No, the senses are compared to like very, very deadly serpents, Kala Sarpa. Durdante Indriya Kala Sarpa Patale, Protkata Damstrayate. Protkata means that which is being extracted. No, Damstra means like teeth. So Protkata Damstrayate. That means the poisonous teeth is plugged out. No, so like senses are like deadly serpents, Kala Sarpa. So, but then their teeth is taken out, for a person who is engaged in devotional service. These are all qualities of people who have engaged in devotional service. For them, Kaivalya is Naraka, that is merging in the Supreme Lord is Naraka. because they want to maintain their identity and serve the Lord. They don't want to merge in the Lord. So the thought of merging in the existence of the Lord is hellish. Kaivalyam narakayate, tridashapur akasha pushpayate, and then durdante indriya kala sarpa patale protkata damstrayate, and then vishwam purna sukhayate. So that is mentioned here. This world is miserable for materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. So he's no Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. No, for him the world becomes no a happy place. No, because the moment he becomes a devotee, every place becomes a Vaikuntha. No, for him. The highest personality in the material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. No, Prodkata Damstrayate, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, Vidhi Mahendra Disha Kitayate. No, that means even Mahendra, even Indra's position becomes like Kita, means useless thing for him. Now, what is the use of becoming some no big person in this world? No, anyway, I have to die at certain point in time. No, sometime for some time people call me king, and after that I'll have to go. No, then what's the point? So for him, even the biggest position becomes equivalent to ant. So such stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, right? So Vidhi Mahendra Deshaki Tayate Ed Vaibhavatam, no, Sri Chaitanya Evastumaha, something like that it ends. So this is like um, this kind of a consciousness is attained by a person who has achieved the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. So this is the last section is fully a no translation of a sloka that Prabhupada is putting here. So very very amazing this one. So for a devotee of the Lord, no, everything changes around. No, like that's the perspective of a devotee that is mentioned here. Okay, text 55. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate tadanantaram. So here it's mentioned Bhaktya mam abhijanati. I can be known by Bhaktya, by devotional service. Yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. So in that way, one can understand me in full, in like what like about me in full, in tatvatah, in truth. And tatomam tatvato nyatva. So if one understands in this way, vishate tad anantaram. No, he enters into the spiritual kingdom. No, if he understands the Lord. So the same thing was mentioned in the I think in the fourth chapter somewhere, like Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah Taktva Dhanvam, Taktva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mam iti so Arjuna. The same thing in a different way is mentioned here. So there in the fourth chapter it was mentioned that if somebody understands the spiritual nature of the Lord, know his birth and activities and things like that, so it is beyond the material nature. If he understands that much, then he goes back to the spiritual world. Same thing is mentioned here. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. By devotion, you can understand who I am. And in truth, you can understand that. And by understanding in such a way, Vishate Dhananantaram. So you will enter into the spiritual kingdom. Yeah. So one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. As already stated in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. No, that means I am not revealed to anyone. Naham Prakasha. Prakasha means to reveal. No, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. So he says, like, no, I am covered. Avrita means to be covered. So Yoga Maya, I am covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya, right? So he is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful. One who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity, Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. No, bhakti means no, Bhagavan has to be there, and the devotee has to be there. Bhakta has to be there, and the seva that the bhakta is doing to the Bhagavan has to be there. So then only there is question of bhakti. No, otherwise there is no question of bhakti. If everything is one, then no, who will serve whom? So then there is no concept of bhakti. No, that is why the Mayavadis, there is no concept of bhakti, because they want to merge in the existence of Lord. There is no bhakti, like we'll just become God. No, so that is useless thing. Okay, such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there, the same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness. One should not mistakenly think that the word Vishate enters into me, supports the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, Vishate means that one can enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord in one's individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. So it is like, no, whenever this is an abstract concept. So one enters the spiritual plane, or one enters the Lord. So these kind of statements may be there in the scriptures, but from the light of the knowledge that we have got from the previous sections of Bhagavad Gita, we should understand that entering the Lord means entering into the spiritual kingdom and to be engaged in the service of the Lord. And Prabhupada is giving one example from Kathopanishad now. He says, for instance, a green bird enters a green tree not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but the personalist keep his individuality like an aquatic in the ocean. So in the previous Sloka purport, we saw that Kaivalyam Narakayate. To merge in the existence of the Lord, for a devotee, it is Naraka. And for non-devotee, that is the highest pleasure that he can get. So this Mayavadi, what he thinks as the highest pleasure is compared to Naraka for a devotee, because he wants something more. He wants to render service to the Lord, and in that way, be happy. We find so many living entities within the ocean if we go deep. Surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean depths. So that means, like the great devotees of the Lord, they are compared in the nectar of devotion. It is compared. The expert devotees of the Lord, they know how to dive deep into the ocean and to experience or taste the nectar of devotional service. Okay, because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulence of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of the Brahmabhuta stage of freedom from material conceptions, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. So in the previous sloka, we saw that Brahmabhuta stage, after we get liberated, then we have a chance to enter into the kingdom of Lord, right? So in the same way here also we see that, after we reach the Brahmabhuta stage, so then we can know, after attainment of Brahmabhuta stage of freedom from material conceptions, devotional service begins by once hearing about the Lord. So when we hear about the Lord, so now we are not in the Brahmabhuta stage. No, we are like conditioned by the material modes of nature. So when we hear about the message of Lord, so then first step that happens is liberation. Then after that, development of attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is how it is happening. So when one hears about Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahmabhuta stage develops. And material contamination such as greediness and lust for sense enjoyment disappear. So this is the first symptom. If we start hearing, it's not that immediately we will become attached to the Lord. So first is we will be progressing towards Brahmabhuta stage, where all this material emotions of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and things like that, these all things will be washed off. So as the lust and desire disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached, to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment he becomes free from material contamination. In that state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. After liberation, the process of bhakti or transcendental service continues. In the Vedanta Sutra 1.4.1.12 confirms this. Apraya, prayanat tatrapihi drishtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. So for a, if like for a devotee's case, practicing devotee's case, like by the process of hearing, chanting, and things like that, if the lust, envy, greed, and all those things is disappearing, so then means he is liberated. So only in that stage he will develop attraction towards the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, he will not be able to develop attraction towards the Supreme Lord. So, first, like everyone, all the devotees looks alike. Everybody are doing the same process of chanting. Everybody are doing the same process of attending Aarti. But somebody is like in the beginning stage. He is not crossed. He is not attained the Brahma Bhuta stage. But somebody has crossed the Brahma Bhuta stage, and they are actually relishing the process. So both of them are doing the same thing, but one person is like in the LKG, another person is in PhD, and the course is the same. It's all the same course, and it's just like small child also eats the same food, and a big man also eats the same food, but the person are different. A big man can do much more activities. So in the same way, like we see that Brahmabhuta stage is crossed, so then we can practice then we can start developing the attachment towards the Lord. So that's actually devotional service. Okay, so this means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the real devotional liberation is defined as reinstatement of living entity in his own identity, his constitutional position. So liberation is defined like this: Muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. So that is the definition that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukti means what? Hitva, giving up. Anyata rupam, all other forms. I am a man, woman, and all those things. I have to give up all these things. Muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. To be situated in our own swarupa, that is being a servant of the Lord. So when we become fixed in that swarupa, so then that means that is real liberation. Right? So getting out of this material world is not real liberation. Real liberation is entering into the spiritual world, and to be engaged in service of the Lord is real liberation. And if we are engaged in service of the Lord here only in the material world, and we are perfectly situated in that, then already liberated. It is that is also Rupa Goswami says, "Iha yasha hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikilashu api avastashu jivan muktasya uchyate." So, like he says that if somebody is very solidly engaged in devotional service, and his tendencies of lust, anger, greed, and all these things have disappeared, then even if he's living in this world, he's already liberated. So it doesn't require that for liberation he has to give up his body, to get liberated. He's already liberated. Just when death happens, he will go to the spiritual world. So, but essentially, he's already liberated. It's just like a person is already selected. In an interview, he has not yet gone to the office, but he's already selected. He's already an employee of the company. He's just not yet gone there. That's all. So in the same way, if somebody's has attained the Brahmabhuta stage, and then he is solidly engaged in devotional service, is liberated. Is liberated, and is situated in his constitutional position. So the constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is part and parcel, fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from misconceptions of life. Okay. Actual liberation, sarvopadi vinirmukta tatparatvena nirmalam. So that's actual liberation. So text 56, sarva karmani api sada kurvano mad vyapashrayah mad prasadat avapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Purport: the word mad vyapashrayah means under the protection of the Supreme Lord. To be free from material contamination, a pure devotee acts under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always 24 hours a day, 100% engaged in the activities under the direction of the Supreme Lord. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he is eventually placed in the transcendental abode or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal, imperishable, and full of knowledge. Text 57. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparah buddhi yogam upashritya machitta satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Purport. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by the profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? There's a very valid question. No, we are telling direct guidance of Krishna. So for Arjuna, Krishna was there. So how we can get guidance of Krishna? So okay, if one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word mat paraha is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. So it's very important point. So I'm offering everything to the Supreme Lord, like I'll do anything and everything and I'll offer. No, it's not like that. We have to do things according to the instruction of Lord, and we have to offer the result to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So that sort of duty is not in devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. That is very important point. The order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Okay, text 58. Machchittah sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atachet tvam ahankaran na shroyasi vinya sorry vinangshasi. Okay, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. And Krishna is very, very categorically mentions, if we listen to him, then we are saved. Otherwise, we will be lost in this world. Purport. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. No, like he's not so much worried about his material existence, actually. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. The foolish people say, like, hey, you have to be serious about this material world. And the devotee is like, no, bindas in the material world. No. So, for one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He is already under strict material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So in that way, like a devotee, he is not very much anxious, because even if some very great difficult time he is going through, he knows that Krishna is going to protect him. Krishna is in charge of things, and even if I have to get some pain, I have to get it. If Krishna's desire is that, then I have to get it. and no, what's the point in taking tension about it? So he's like, he's not so much anxious about the future, what's going to happen. No, he's always very secured, about his future. So when future is hazy, then people will start like becoming so much depressed. What will happen to me in the future? What will happen to me? So a Krishna conscious person, whatever Krishna desires, it will happen. Good or bad, no, that only will happen. No, what is the point of thinking about it? Just I'll get engaged in the service of the Lord and be happy. Okay, text 59. Yad ahankaram ashritya na yotsya iti manyase mityasi mityaisha uh, vyavasayaste prakristvam niyokshati. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. So yesterday also we were discussing this. If Krishna is telling that if you give up fighting now and then go away, definitely you'll go somewhere and you'll pick up fight. Your nature is to be a fighting man. No, your duty is there. Better you fight now. Otherwise, you will go and pick up unnecessary fight somewhere else. Purport: Arjuna was a military man and born of the nature of the Kshatriya. Therefore, his natural duty was to fight. But due to false ego, he was fearing that by killing his teacher, grandfather, and friends, he would incur sinful reactions. Actually, he was considering himself master of his action, as if he were directing the good and bad results of such work. He forgot that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present there, instructing him to fight. That is the forgetfulness of the conditioned soul. The Supreme Personality gives directions as to what is good and what is bad, and one simply has to act in Krishna consciousness to attain the perfection of life. No one can ascertain his destiny as the Supreme Lord can. Therefore, the best course is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and act. No one should neglect the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the order of the Spiritual Master, who is the representative of God. One should act unhesitatingly to execute the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That will keep one safe under all circumstances. Okay, very nice. This one, so text 60. Swabhava jena kaunteya nibaddha svena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyasi avashopitat. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. If one refuses to act under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting in that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord becomes glorious. So, this we had discussed many times. If we engage in the service of the Lord, then we cross beyond the modes of nature and we will be able to be situated in the Brahma Bhuta stage. But if we are not acting according to the instructions of the Lord, so then we will be on our own and we will be acting under the modes of material nature. Okay, text 61. Ishwarah sarva bhutanam hridadeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. Okay. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated on a machine made of material energy. So this is something which we often quote the sloka. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridadesha Arjuna Tishtati. So where does the Lord lives? He lives in the region of heart, right? And then Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudani Maya. So like he is directing the Brahmayan means the wanderings, Brahman Karna, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani of all living entities. Even a microbe, how it actually moves from one person to another person, like the Lord has to dictate, otherwise it will not move. Even a virus has to move according to the will of the Lord. It cannot just like that, it cannot go anywhere, right? Okay. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings, Brahmayan Sarvabhutani, directing the wanderings of all living entities, and who are seated on a machine, that is this body, which is made of material energy. Purport. Arjuna was not the supreme knower, and his decision to fight or not to fight was confined to his limited discretion. Lord Krishna instructed that the individual is not all in all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, or He Himself, Krishna, as the localized super soul, sits in the heart, directing the living beings. After changing bodies, the living entities forget his past deeds, but the super soul, as the knower of past, present, and future, remains the witness of all his activities. So this is one of the important concepts which Prabhupada always says. So he says that after changing bodies, the living entity forgets his past deeds. So change of body actually gives forgetfulness. No. So, but then the super soul, who's Paramatma, who's there with us all the time, he doesn't change bodies. No, he is always in an eternal body. So he remembers past, present, and future, and he remains the witness for all of our activities. Okay, therefore, all activities of living entities are directed by the super soul. The living entity gets what he deserves and is carried by the material body, which is created by material energy under the direction of the supreme super soul. So we see that what kind of body we get, no, it is executed by, this body is a machine given by the material nature. What is the criteria on which this body is made? So the criteria is how much of karma I've got. No, according to my karma, material nature makes a body and gives it to me. No, it's just like if you go to a shop to buy a car, according to the money that you have got, you will get one car. No, so then all possible needs, there are different cars that are made. According to my capacity, I will purchase one car. So in the same way, no, all possible types of bodies are there. 84 lakh different species of bodies are there in the showroom of material nature. And no, when we go there, when we die and go there in the showroom, so according to our karma, we will pick up one body. It's just like picking up one car and we'll come, no, like that. As soon as a living entity is placed in a particular type of body, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. No, if I am put in the body of a male, I have to think like a male only. If I am put in the body of a female, I have to think like a female only. If I have been put in the body of a cat or a dog, I have to think in that way only. There is no freedom. No, the moment the living entity is put into one body, he just has to act like that. There is no way of changing it. Okay. A person seated in a high speed motor car goes faster than one seated in a slower car, though the living entity, the drivers, may be the same. Similarly, the order of the supreme soul, material nature, by the order of the supreme soul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity so that he may work according to his past desires. The living entity is not independent. One should not think himself independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual is always under the Lord's control. Therefore, one's duty is to surrender, and that is the injunction of the next verse. Okay, text 62. Tam eva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Okay, Ocean of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. Know who's this him? Krishna is only speaking. Who's this him? So whenever this kind of an address comes, we should understand Krishna is pointing to Paramatma. Know his feature, Krishna's expansion as Paramatma. So the Lord is telling. No, how do we know it is Paramatma? It's a speculation. No, what is the previous sloka? Previous sloka is he's telling that Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, Hridadesha Arjuna Tishtati, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, Yantra Rani Maya. Who's that one who's sitting on the heart? Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, Hridadesha. So in the heart, in the region of heart, who is the one who's situated? He's Paramatma. And Lord is putting a third party address over there. He's not telling, I am sitting in everyone's heart. He's not telling like that. He's telling Ishvara, no, the Supreme Lord, as the Paramatma is sitting in everyone's this one. And in the past, no, Krishna had very clearly explained how he is the Paramatma himself. No, his expansion is Paramatma. And now he is telling that that Paramatma is sitting in everyone's heart. No, he is sitting in your heart also. And you should surrender unto him. So now he is talking about surrender unto Paramatma. In a little while, if we see, no, Lord will say that Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Eka Sharanam Raja. He will come to that personal address. No, so now he is telling like no tam. What is that? Tam eva Sharanam Gacha. Like no tam means unto him. No, yeah, like Mam eva Sharanam Raja. Like no, that is like Mam Ekam no Sharanam Raja means that is like when after some time Krishna will come to the Bhagavan aspect of the Lord. Now he is focusing on the Paramatma aspect of the Lord. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, that was a Brahman stage, and now like surrender unto him, that Paramatma, that is like Paramatma stage. And then Maam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, that is like Bhagavan, right? So like all these different realizations like Krishna is mentioning here. Okay. O Siyan of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Purport. A living entity should therefore surrender into the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end he will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, Rig Veda, as Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam. No, that is the transcendental world. So, since all of the creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. No, but Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha. So, this is a very important concept. Since all creation is the kingdom of God, right? Everything material is actually spiritual. What does it mean? No, it is like, what is material? So Krishna defines the material, this one in the Bhagavatam, in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, where he says that, no, if you are seeing something in this world and then you are not able to see its connection with me, then you should understand you are in Maya, or that is the definition of material or matter. So when we are able to see that earth, water, fire, air, ether, everything is connected to Krishna, then essentially everything becomes spirit only. So everything becomes spiritual. So like everything is part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna is spiritual, so then everything in connection with him is also spiritual. So in that way, like that is spiritual, right? So in the external classification, yeah, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, they are material in nature, and the living entities are spiritual in nature. But in the consideration of everything is part and parcel of the Lord, it becomes everything is spiritual. So that is how the Vedanta Sutra that is there. No, Sarvam Kala Vidam Brahma. Everything that exists is Brahma or spiritual in nature, right? So that is the aphorism that Prabhupada is mentioning here. Okay, so but Parampadam means like the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha or the residence of the Supreme Lord. Okay, in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishtaha. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So, this recommendation that one should surrender unto the super soul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God at Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the supreme. So, like in the previous sloka, no, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridayesha Arjuna Tishtati. The Lord is telling Ishvara, or that supreme Lord, is staying in everyone's heart as Paramatma. So here Prabhupada is bringing it from the 15th chapter. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishtaha. Sarvasya means like of everyone. No, like I am residing in everyone. No, hridi sannivishtaha. No, sannivesha means like to stay actually. Hridi sannivishtaha. So he's telling, no, Krishna may use a third party language saying that, no, that Ishvara, him, no, you surrender unto him. But that him is equated with Krishna in the 15th chapter. Now that Prabhupada is citing here. Sarva sacha aham hridi sannivishtaha. Right? So, okay. So Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma, Param Dhama. No, Arjuna has already accepted that. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of the great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa. Okay. Text 63. Iti te jnanamakhyatam guhyad guhyataram maya vimrushyaitat asheshena yatechasi tatha kuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. No? So for some people this is the most favorite line in the So for some people, this is the most favorite line in the Bhagavad Gita. Yate chasi tata kuru. Whatever you desire, you do. So people tell that. No, but before that, Krishna mentioned, if you follow me, no, you will be saved. Otherwise, you will be lost. And all those warning he is giving. And after that, he is telling, Yate chisi tata kuru, like whatever you want, you do. No? But people don't read that. Right? So, thus I have explained to you, knowledge still more confidential, deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. So, this is more confidential knowledge. Confidential knowledge means Brahman, knowledge about Brahman, or knowledge about we are spirit and we are not the body. And more confidential knowledge means knowledge about the Paramatma. And the most confidential knowledge is the knowledge about the Supreme Lord, no, Bhagavan feature. Right? Okay, purport. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahma Bhuta. One who is in the Brahma Bhuta condition is joyful, he never laments, nor does he desire anything. That is due to confidential knowledge. No, Brahma Bhuta stage is called confidential knowledge. Right? So we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, and there is no na kankshati, na soshati, and all those things. Right? And then Krishna also disclosed knowledge of the super soul. This is also Brahman knowledge, knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. This is more confidential knowledge, right? So just confidential knowledge means Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. And more confidential knowledge means Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridadesh Arjuna Tishtati, all those things, right? Here the words Yatechasi Tata Kuru, as you like you may act, indicate that God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the super soul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to the act according to order of the super soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. No, it's not that Lord wants to increase his followership, no, his membership, and he is convincing everybody. It is not for the best interest of the Supreme Lord. It is for our best interest. We can become happy by surrendering unto the Supreme Lord. Right? That is why the Lord is telling. So before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instruction comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. Okay. And then Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah shrinu me paramam vachah ishtosi me dridam iti tato vakshyami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking my supreme instruction, um, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Purport. No, this after Yatachisi Tatakuru, so Krishna is telling, no, he is only given the like confidential and little more confidential knowledge. He has not revealed the most confidential knowledge. He is giving the conclusion. In the conclusion, he has given only 2 steps out of the 3 steps. So then Krishna is again starting saying that, what if Arjuna goes back? He's again trying to convince him, saying that, you have your freedom to do, but I want to say a little more also, like that. So the Lord has given Arjuna that is the Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, knowledge of the Brahman, and still more confidential knowledge, knowledge of the super soul within everyone's heart. And now he is giving the most confidential part of knowledge. Just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, it's not surrender to Paramatma, it is surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the end of 9th chapter, he said, Man manaha. So just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated here to stress the essence of teachings of Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literature. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna, but by all living entities. Right? So this Manmana Bhavamat Bhakta, it is given in the 9th chapter, right? So 9th chapter is the core of devotional service that is going on, right? So 6th to 7th to 12th is devotional service, chapters of devotional service. 7 and 9 is the middle of the this one. No, the 6 chapters, it's in the middle, 9th and 10th. So they are the most important chapters. Why? Because there is this knowledge, this most confidential knowledge was revealed. Now in the summary again, Krishna is bringing about this most confidential knowledge. That is Manmana Bhavamat Bhakta Madhyajimam Namaskuru. Right? So that he is telling it again here. Manmana Bhavamat Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mam Evaishyasi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyosi Me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. So somebody will say, like, no, if I always do this, then what else I will do? The thing is, like, there is nothing else to be done. That is the most confidential knowledge. This is the ultimate perfection that one can achieve. So thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So Krishna is giving the secret, saying that, no, you are very dear friend. No, I want to tell you something more. No, I want to give you the best of it. So take it like that. Purport. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is very dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna. The very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feather in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead Krishna. So it is mentioned that every day morning, like we uh, play this Brahma Samhita prayer, right? So we put that. What is it? Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalaya Daksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? So, like, these are all like very amazing description of the Lord, that is given. And Prabhupada is also very merciful. He's giving this nice description. Like one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, and Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam. So bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers, no? So like Baraha Piram, right? So like this, this form of Lord is the object of meditation for a devotee. So one should not even divert his attention to the other forms of Lord. Then the Lord has multi forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitute the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. So here we see in other portions of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada may say that it is okay to concentrate on any of the Vishnu forms like Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, and things like that. So, but then here the section that we are dealing with is most confidential knowledge. So, in most confidential knowledge, Krishna is telling that you don't concentrate on any other form; you just concentrate on that form, this original Bhagavan feature, the Krishna himself. That is why Prabhupada is giving stress on this aspect. So the advanced devotees, they don't divert their attention to any other forms. They just fully focus on Krishna's personal form. So that is the most confidential knowledge. Okay, so this is Sarva Dharman Parityajya is a little next shloka. It is also very important shloka. So we will pick up this shloka tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, tomorrow I'm traveling back to Bangalore. So I will miss the class. So how can I get the recording? And
every day's recording is getting uploaded. So I'll share it.
In okay. Thank you so much, Guruji. Because I don't want to miss the last section.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.